The kidnappers forced my husband to choose between me and his first love. My son whispered to my husband, "Dad, let's choose Aunt Chloe, she's timid and can't handle the scare." My husband nodded in agreement, praising our son for being sensible. My son forgot that I was kidnapped to save him. Suddenly, I felt tired. Since they don't choose me, I'll abandon you all as well. Chloe, we're ransoming her. Hearing the choice my husband and son made in front of the kidnappers, my mood remained calm without any ripples. A few minutes ago, I heard all of their father-son whispered discussion. They forgot that since I became a mother, I have possessed a magical ability. I can hear my son's voice no matter how far away it is. My son often lost his temper at me because of this. "Mom, are you a surveillance freak? Why do you know everything I do?" Later, to reduce conflicts with my child, I chose to ignore it. Over time, he also forgot about this mother-exclusive superpower of mine. My husband Ethan looked at me with complex eyes, but his hand was already tightly holding Chloe's. Why force someone who can't be kept? I raised my eyes to look at him. "Ethan, you take Ian and Miss Chloe and leave first." Upon hearing this, Ethan secretly breathed a sigh of relief. He promised me, "Don't worry, once they're safe, I'll find a way to save you." In a short time, the Ethan family couldn't gather 2 ransoms at all. From the moment he chose Chloe, I already knew my fate, didn't I? My son impatiently urged, "Dad, hurry up and leave, Aunt Chloe is shaking with fear." I looked at my son, who hadn't given me a single glance of concern throughout, with a thin, cool smile on my lips. He forgot that I was kidnapped because I exchanged myself for him. I brought him into this world on my own initiative. Now, exchanging myself for him, our mother-son bond ends here. After Ethan left with the others, the kidnappers turned their gaze back to me. The scar-faced man stared at me, saying in an unkind tone, "Boss, this woman is pitifully stupid. Her husband and son don't want her, why not let me have some fun first?" I retreated in terror, my tense heart rising to my throat. The kidnapper leader slapped the scar-faced man on the back of the head, cursing with a displeased face, "You're stupid. At a time like this, you're still thinking about that crotch stuff. This location is exposed, we need to transfer quickly." I was glad that this kidnapper leader was rational, buying me time to save myself. They dragged me into the car, preparing to go to the next hideout. Under the violent shaking, the necklace around my neck accidentally fell off. This was the wedding anniversary gift Ethan gave me, and it was the only gift he ever gave me, something I had always cherished. I was the marriage partner selected by Ethan's grandmother. Chloe was his first love, the kind that is etched in the heart and retains a place in the bottom of one's heart for life. When I learned about Chloe, I was already pregnant with Ian. The matter was set in stone, and I didn't even have a chance to regret it. For the sake of the child, I could only endure. But I never expected that even my most treasured child would ultimately choose Chloe. Now, I could only rely on myself to escape the predicament. After the car passed a nearby gas station, it slowly stopped. Perhaps thinking that I had been abandoned by my husband and child with no rescue or resistance capability, the kidnappers didn't guard me strictly, only tying my hands with a zip tie. Through the gap in the car window, I could see the outside scene. To my surprise, this gas station was very familiar to me. This road was the one I took every morning to send my son to school, and the gas station was a place I often visited. I knew there was a pool hall behind the gas station. Once by accident, I inadvertently entered it. What seemed like a simple pool hall was actually a bloody and terrifying underground boxing ring. Inside, there were not only a group of aggressive young people but also a domineering and fierce boss. That time, I was so scared by the fierce boss that I had nightmares for 3 days straight. Between nightmares and being killed, I unhesitatingly chose nightmares. Taking advantage of the moment when the kidnapper leaned out to scan and pay, I carefully used my foot to hook open the car door and quickly ran out. The kidnappers noticed something wrong, jumped out of the car, and chased after me. I didn't have time to think much. Relying on my familiarity with the terrain, I quickly ran towards the pool hall. "Help, please save me." The abrupt shout instantly silenced the originally noisy pool hall. I spotted the fierce boss sitting in the corner drinking cola at a glance and rushed straight towards him. "Boss Lucas, save me." The speed was too fast, and I couldn't brake in time when I reached him. I fell down entirely, kneeling directly between his legs. The atmosphere became awkward for a moment. A man's gloomy voice sounded above my head. "How much grudge do you have against me that you want to ruin my happiness for the rest of my life?" I apologized incoherently. "Sorry, really sorry, but could you please save me first?" The man lowered his head to glance at me, frowning without speaking. Several kidnappers had already rushed in. The scar-faced man roared and tried to come over to grab me but was stopped by the guys in the place. The scar-faced man was very angry. "I'm handling my wife, mind your fucking business, or I'll kill you." I shook my head desperately. "I'm not his wife, they're kidnappers, please call the police for me." Hearing my words, the kidnapper leader signaled his brothers to show their weapons. He waved a machete at Boss Lucas. "Kid, give me back the person, and I'll make you a friend. We brothers live by licking blood off knife edges. If you want a red knife in and white knife out, just try." Hearing the kidnapper's threat, the person beside advised Boss Lucas, "Big brother Lucas, there's no need for us to get into trouble for an unrelated person. If we really attract the police, we'll be in trouble too." My spine chilled. I almost forgot, this is an underground boxing ring that can't see the light of day. How could they call the police for me? It's even less likely they'd fight desperados hand-to-hand for me. My heart gradually sank. I slowly stood up and bowed to Boss Lucas. "I've caused you trouble today." After saying that, I turned and walked towards the kidnappers. The scar-faced man's gaze at me was filled with triumph. "You cheap bitch, you dared to run. Later, I'll cripple you so you never stand up again in your life." He reached out to pull my hair. Suddenly, a gust of wind sounded in my ear. The next second, the scar-faced man let out a piercing scream. The Swiss Army knife that Boss Lucas had been playing with earlier was now straightly inserted into the scar-faced man's palm. Boss Lucas, who had been leaning back in the lounge chair, now stood up and coldly scanned the kidnappers. I hate people with dirty mouths the most. With me here today, no one is taking this woman away. Upon hearing this, the kidnapper leader instantly became furious. He shouted loudly, "Attack!" 6 or 7 kidnappers charged at us with machetes raised. Boss Lucas pulled me back, throwing me to a safe area, and immediately joined the fray. His martial arts skills were impressive, even 2 kidnappers teaming up were no match for him. Seeing Boss Lucas join in, the others in the boxing gym immediately entered the fight. Although the kidnappers were ruthless, they couldn't compare to these longtime boxers. Soon, the kidnappers were at a disadvantage. The kidnapper leader was beaten black and blue by Boss Lucas and fell to the ground, unable to get up. As the battlefield was being cleared, the police finally arrived. It was the gas station staff who had called the police. Boss Lucas pulled out the small knife stuck in the scar-faced man's palm and cut the zip tie on my hands. I didn't have time to check my injuries and quickly thanked him. "Thank you for saving me." Boss Lucas glanced at my wrist. "No need to thank me, take care of yourself." Seeing him about to leave, I quickly stopped him. "Wait, I still don't know my benefactor's name." He raised an eyebrow and said lightly, "Lucas." I was slightly stunned. I didn't expect such a cool-looking handsome guy to have such an elegant name, which somewhat didn't match his temperament. Coming out of the police station after finishing the statement, I unexpectedly saw Lucas there too. I quickly ran towards him. "I'm really sorry today, you saved me, and I caused you so much trouble." With apology in my heart, I spoke incoherently, not even daring to lift my head. "As long as you need it, I'll do anything you ask." Lucas's cold voice came from above. "Anything?" Afraid he wouldn't believe me, I immediately looked up and said extremely sincerely, "Yes, you saved my life, I'll agree to anything." Lucas curled his lip, "Being my wife is okay too?" I was slightly stunned, my brain instantly crashing. He boredly pursed his lips and turned to leave. I hesitated for a moment and shouted at his back, "Yes, as long as you don't mind that I've been married and have a child." Lucas stopped, turned back, and approached me. He lowered his head, his handsome face right in front of me, staring at me with a very strange look, the faint tobacco scent on him entering my brain through my nostrils. "I don't mind. Are you really willing to be my wife?" In my past life, I lived by the rules. I accepted my parents' arrangement, went on a blind date, and married Ethan. After getting pregnant, I followed Ethan's suggestion, quit my job, and stayed home to take care of the child. In the end, both husband and son abandoned me. I lived according to others' wishes, yet lived so failingly. Now, I just want to live for myself. I subconsciously nodded, yes. The words at the tip of my tongue weren't finished when a man's angry roar came from behind. "What are you doing?" I turned to look. Ethan was standing not far away with our son, glaring at me angrily. My son came up to me, angrily pushing Lucas away. "Mom, Dad, and I came specially to save you. How can you hook up with some shady man outside?" I glanced at Chloe standing not far away, with a smug smile on her lips. I already had the answer in my heart. Seeing Ethan also frowning, his eyes full of disgust, I raised my eyes to stare into his. "Save me? So, you've gathered the ransom?" Ethan was slightly stunned, his face somewhat unnatural, not daring to meet my eyes anymore. I unpolitely sneered, "Hee, you haven't even gathered the money, yet you say you're here to save me. With what? Exchanging yourself?" Without waiting for Ethan to answer, my son rushed to explain for his dad. Dad took Aunt Chloe to treat her wound, then immediately brought us to report to the police, letting the police uncle save you. I glanced at the bandage on Chloe's forehead. Yes, it needs timely treatment, any later, and the wound might heal. No wonder they only arrived at the police station after I finished my statement. After saying that, I turned my gaze back to Ethan. "Weren't you worried that reporting to the police would anger the kidnappers and make them act extremely? Why don't you worry when it comes to me?" Ethan was speechless, suddenly silent like a chicken with its neck wrung. Seeing this, Chloe immediately hugged Ian and blocked in front of Ethan. "Sister Lynn, it's all my fault. If you have resentment, direct it at me, don't blame brother Ethan, he was forced to. Ian is still young, please don't hurt him like this." I curled my lip in a smile. "Miss Chloe? We're a family of 3 talking. What status do you have? Why jump out and speak for my husband?" Lucas took the opportunity to add, "I've seen people rushing to be the third wheel, but not rushing to be a stepmom." Her little scheme exposed, Chloe's face became extremely ugly. With red eyes, she sobbed softly. Seeing this, my son couldn't stand it first. He struggled out of Chloe's arms and angrily rebuked me. "I just want Aunt Chloe to be my mom, she's gentle, beautiful, and knows how to care for me. She won't force me to study every day for face, Dad and I both like her." I raised my eyes to look at Ethan. "You like her too?" Ethan was silent, only remembering to explain after a long while. I interrupted him, "Let's divorce." Joy flashed across my son's face, his eyes sparkling as he looked at Chloe. It seemed he was extremely satisfied with this proposal. Ethan, however, became anxious. "Lynn, I don't like Chloe. Ian is just a child, he doesn't know what he's saying. For such a small matter, you're making a fuss about divorce, it's really too impulsive." I laughed in anger. "Is it just childish words?" Ethan seemed to react. "You still care about the kidnapping? I chose for you back then, you agreed to let us save Chloe first." "Yes." I nodded. "I did let you save Chloe first, I just wanted to test what your true choice was, and you really chose her." "Ethan, you're really disappointing." Ethan's face instantly turned pale, the color draining completely. His mouth opened and closed, but in the end, he said nothing. I bypassed him and came to Lucas. "I have nowhere to go now, can you shelter me for a bit?" Homeless me followed Lucas home. Just entering the door, a pink little ball rushed towards us. "Dad, I'm here." Nora's sweet voice brought joy to the heart. Lucas bent down, picked up the little pink ball, and gently removed the toy hood from her head. The little pink dumpling's cute face immediately appeared before me. When I was pregnant with Ian, I had always hoped for a baby girl. Unexpectedly, I gave birth to a stinky boy who gave me headaches all day. The little dumpling's bright eyes stared straight at me. "Dad, is this the mom you found for me?" Without waiting for me to speak, she stretched out her two little white arms and pounced towards me. "Mom, Nora misses you so much." I was about to refuse, but Lucas's gaze stopped me. The little dumpling fluttered her big eyes, rubbing vigorously into my arms. After a good while, Lucas reached out to take the little dumpling. "Nora, you can't cling to Mom all the time, she'll get tired. It's almost 9, time for bed." Hearing Lucas's words, the little dumpling reluctantly let go of me. "Mom, can you sleep with Nora? There are monsters in dreams, Nora is scared." Looking at those lively big eyes, I couldn't say no. "Okay, shall I tell Nora a story?" The child was easier to coax than imagined. After 2 stories, Nora was already sound asleep. Her hand tightly clutched my palm. I worried that leaving would wake her, so I stayed another 10 minutes before loosening her hand. Coming out of the room, I saw Lucas sitting alone on the living room sofa with a beer in hand. Seeing me appear, he turned to look at me. "Nora likes you a lot." I smiled faintly, hesitantly asking, "What about her mom?" "Gone, when she was 6 months old." Lucas's voice was flat, but it tightened my heart. Such a small child losing her mom at 6 months was too heart-wrenching. Lucas stood up and walked towards me, stuffing a key into my palm. "Borrow this place, help me take care of Nora. If you mind, I can not come back." I instantly understood Lucas's meaning. Nora looked only 3 or 4 years old, and being a girl, it was probably inconvenient for Lucas to care for her alone. "It's fine, as long as there's a guest room for me to rest. Treat it as me renting from you, exchanging rent with caring for Nora." Just like that, Lucas and I made an agreement. He provided me accommodation, and I helped him care for the child. Ethan had been dragging his feet, unwilling to divorce. Now, he even turned off his phone, making me unable to find him. After settling Nora, I took a taxi directly to Ethan's house. I was the blind date partner selected by Ethan's grandmother for him. Now, to end this marriage, I also had to ask Ethan's grandmother to step in. I originally thought this marriage would continue plainly to the end, even if Ethan and I didn't have much affection, but we had a child. Perhaps it would end up like my parents. Although it was a marriage alliance, over the years, mutual respect like guests was not a bad choice. But I never expected that Ethan still had Chloe hidden in his heart. Ethan's grandmother frowned at me, her eyes full of pity. "Lynn, is there really no room for maneuver? Ian is still so young, if not for Ethan, then for the child." I didn't hide the kidnapping. After being rescued, I posted on Instagram right away. Now, all friends around knew that when facing life and death danger, my husband chose his first love and abandoned me. Since they weren't humane, why should I cover for them? I said faintly, "Grandma, I've already decided." The living room door opened, Ethan hurried in, followed by the innocent little white flower Chloe. Ethan glared at me angrily. Making a fuss about divorce with me, and running to Grandma to ask for help. "Lynn, Grandma is so old and not in good health, you're still tormenting her like this? If you make more fuss, I'll definitely divorce you." Ethan's grandmother sighed deeply. "Lynn came to ask me to help persuade you to divorce." Ethan was stunned in place. I chuckled, "Perfect, since you have no objection, let's go to the Civil Affairs Bureau today to handle the divorce procedures." A few seconds later, Ethan responded, "If you want a divorce, Ian's custody can't go to you." Neither Ethan nor the Ethan family would give me the child's custody. Most importantly, Ian didn't want me as his mom. Since neither father nor son chose me, why should I force them? "Don't worry, Ian's custody goes to you. Except for the initial marriage alliance support from my family to the Ethan family, I don't want anything else." Ethan frowned. Chloe's voice carried a hint of anger. "Sister Lynn, you know brother Ethan's company is facing financial difficulties now. Withdrawing funds at this time, isn't this indirectly forcing brother Ethan? Or do you not want a divorce at all, just using this as an excuse to make brother Ethan yield to you." Upon hearing this, Ethan immediately looked up at me, obviously believing Chloe's words. I sneered, "Do you think for the Ethan family, is this bit of money more important or Ian?" At Ian's current age, from a legal perspective, as long as I'm willing to fight for custody, the law will definitely side with me. Chloe's face was full of indignation, still wanting to refute. But I didn't give her a chance to speak. "Miss Chloe, the reason the Ethan family is worsening financially isn't me, but you. Don't forget, not long ago, Ethan gathered a large sum to ransom you." Chloe's face instantly became extremely ugly. At this moment, she probably wanted to dig a hole and hide. For such people, no need to be polite. Why should I use my dowry to pay for the Ethan family after divorce? Is there such a shameless thing? I spoke impolitely, and whether Chloe or the Ethan family, their faces looked bad. But now, I didn't care about anyone. I sneered at Chloe, "If it really doesn't work, Miss Chloe, go back and ask your parents." She stiffened in place, like being slapped hard in public. If the Chloe family was willing to pay, the initial ransom wouldn't have fallen to Ethan. Ethan's grandmother made the final decision. "Ethan, you're the one wrong, you should admit it. Tomorrow, have finance sorted out and return the Lynn family's funds. Our Ethan family can't afford this shame." Ethan's face was ashen, nodding indifferently. On the day of getting the divorce certificate, I got up early on purpose. Just coming out of the bedroom, Nora plunged into my arms. "Mom, you look so beautiful today, are you taking Nora out to play?" Nora's voice almost melted my heart. "Mom has something to do today, Nora waited home for Mom, okay?" Learning she couldn't come, Nora's little face immediately wrinkled, her eyes red as if about to cry but not daring to. Lucas stepped forward to coax her, but Nora cried out directly. Learning I was going to get a marriage certificate, Lucas offered to drive me. "Nora and I will wait in the car, come find us when you're done." "Okay." In the civil affairs hall, Ethan and the others had already arrived. Getting the divorce certificate, Ian excitedly showed it to Chloe. "Aunt Chloe, great, from now on, you're my mom, and we can finally live together." He danced happily, deliberately amplifying his voice to attract my attention. Perhaps there's no greater sorrow than a dead heart, my emotions didn't change much. Seeing me approach, Ian frowned in disgust. "Don't come over, my custody is with Dad, and I don't want to see you anymore." I said calmly, "Excuse me, you're blocking the way." Ian was stunned for a moment, subconsciously stepping aside. I walked straight out the door, without glancing at him again. Now, I have no more ties with him or the Ethan family. Just finding Lucas's car and preparing to open the door to get in, a strong force from behind pulled me back. I didn't expect Ethan to chase out. "Anything else?" Perhaps seeing me entangled, Lucas pushed the door open and stood behind me. "You okay?" I shook my head. Ethan's eyes scanned back and forth between Lucas and me. "Is it him? No wonder you're so determined to divorce, you found a new home in advance?" I laughed in anger. "You're allowed to be lovey-dovey with your white moonlight, but I can't have a new partner. I didn't expect you to be a double-standard dog." Ethan stood stunned. Chloe hurried over with Ian. Seeing this, Chloe quickly said, "Ian, is this the new dad your mom found for you?" My son's already dissatisfied eyes instantly filled with resentment. I raised my hand and slapped Chloe hard on the face. Everyone was stunned. Chloe covered her face, looking at me in disbelief. I retorted coldly, "Miss Chloe, or should I call you Chloe the mistress? I hit you, you can call the police to arrest me, but it can't cover the fact that you're the third party interfering in others' marriage. If you want to make a big deal, I'm happy to accompany." Hearing my words, Chloe's angry eyes gained a hint of fear. Seeing her about to speak, I preempted. "You don't need to deny, we both know the facts. It takes two to tango. I originally didn't plan to target you. But you repeatedly stirred trouble in front of my son, he's only a few years old, do you think it's appropriate to say such things to him?" I turned my head to glance at Ethan. "You only deserve this kind of trash." Ethan's dissatisfied gaze fell on Chloe. Lucas stepped forward, putting one arm around my shoulders. Can we go now? I didn't want to entangle with the past too much, turned with Lucas and left. My son's voice came from behind. If you leave with this man, don't ever think of seeing me again. He was wrong. It wasn't him not seeing me, but me choosing to abandon them. I got in the car with Lucas. As the car drove past Ethan and the others, Nora, sitting in the safety seat, pointed out the window and asked, "Mom, who is that brother who's mean to you?" I pursed my lips. I don't know him. Originally, we agreed I'd cook tonight, making cute seaweed rice balls for Nora. But Lucas took us to a restaurant, ordering a table full of good dishes. I was somewhat surprised. Is today a special day? He raised his glass, inviting me. Celebrating your new life. Nora asked, Dad, what is new life? Lucas patiently replied, the dawn has passed, the future is infinitely beautiful. I reached out to gently stroke Nora's hair. Dad is telling Nora that today is a happy day, and tomorrow will be just as happy. Nora danced with joy. Great, days with Dad and Mom are so happy. Perhaps infected by Nora's joy, the gloom in my heart was swept away. Taking care of Nora felt completely different from Ian. Nora was a sweet-talking, warm little jacket. No matter what I did, I got her praise, fully maximizing emotional value. Ian was like a noble prince. In his eyes, I was a lowly maid. Doing well was my duty, a slight oversight was a grave sin. Perhaps it related to Ian's upbringing. After his first birthday, Ethan, to cultivate an elite child for the Ethan family, took him away from me, which was also the Ethan family's tradition. They believed a kind mother spoils the child, only strong eagle education could make the next generation grow better. Only after Ian started kindergarten did I have more opportunities to care for him. But by then, Ian had completely become the Ethan family's child, cold and selfish like Ethan. I tried hard to reverse this, embracing him with more love. But his bones flowed with the Ethan family's genes, treating ignoring me as routine. Mom, wah. Nora's cry pulled my thoughts back. I turned to see her lying on the floor in front of the slide, crying with red eyes. My heart instantly tightened. I immediately ran over and picked her up. Nora, don't be afraid, Mom is here. Her knee was scraped, blood beads seeping out. Just after cleaning the wound, Lucas arrived. Seeing this, I immediately stood up, head lowered. Sorry, I didn't watch Nora well, causing her to fall. Nora's voice followed. It's not Mom's fault, Nora didn't pay attention. Lucas squatted down, his voice full of endless gentleness. Since Nora realizes the mistake, quickly apologize to Mom. Next time, don't make Mom worry like this. If you get hurt, what will Dad and Mom do? Lucas's reaction left me somewhat stunned. When I took care of Ian, just a light scrape not only made Ian despise me but also got me publicly scolded by Ethan. Lucas took my hand, forcing me to look at him. No need to feel guilty, bumps and bruises are inevitable for kids this age, it's not your problem. Perhaps due to years of abuse, I was somewhat unaccustomed to Lucas's gentleness. I carefully withdrew my hand, smiling awkwardly. I'll definitely pay attention next time. Lucas said seriously, remember, before that, you're just you. Yes, before being Ian's mom, I'm just Lynn. I have responsibility to Ian, but I can't completely lose myself because of him. Unexpectedly, after being muddled for so long, Lucas's one sentence enlightened me. From now on, I'll only be Lynn. Past 1 in the morning, I received Ethan's call. Where is my stomach medicine? Being in dreamland, suddenly interrupted, my anger surged directly. Such a grown man can't find it himself? The other end was silent for a second. Just as I was about to hang up, Ethan spoke again. My stomach hurts. His stomachache is none of my business? My anger fully erupted. Ex-husband bro, if sick, go treat it, don't bother me if nothing. After saying that, I immediately hung up. Ethan's stomach illness existed long before I married him. To strive for his career, Ethan often had to socialize. To care for his stomach illness, I learned to make health soups, coaxed him to eat, ensuring his 3 meals on time. Every day, I carried his stomach medicine with me to relieve his discomfort at the first moment. But what did I get for such efforts? Ethan's indifference, his sarcasm, despising me for meddling. Now that I ignore him, he comes shamelessly asking. Heh, cheap. A few days later, I received Ian's call again. On the other end, he reluctantly said, "School arranged parent duty, come over." I laughed in anger. Good things don't think of me, but the bitter task of standing on the road as traffic director, he remembers me. No time. I continued to emphasize, also, I'm not your mom anymore. Didn't you recognize Chloe as your mom? Go find her, let her do the duty for you. That day, I went to change my phone card. From now on, no more chances for trash to harm me. Nora is really a thoughtful child. I made her seaweed-wrapped rice, and she immediately thought of Lucas. Mom, such delicious rice, can we send it to Dad to eat? Those watery big eyes made it impossible to refuse. So, I took her to the pool hall. Lucas was still on the stage practicing with someone, each punch carrying strong masculine hormone charm. The people around saw me, their curious eyes scanning back and forth between Nora and me. Hearing Nora call me Mom, the others immediately shouted, "Sister-in-law." My face blushed red, not knowing how to respond. Lucas and I were more in a cooperative relationship, without emotional entanglements. Lucas finished practicing and came down. Nora presented the seaweed-wrapped rice like a treasure. "Dad, this is made by Mom herself, super delicious rice, eat quickly." Lucas raised his eyes to look at me. Our eyes met, and I felt my cheeks heat up. I decided to go to the door for some air. Just stepping out, I met the guy who helped Lucas save me last time. If I remember correctly, his name is Zane. Zane saw me and greeted proactively, "Sister-in-law, convenient to chat a bit?" I nodded and followed him to a corner aside. Hearing Zane's narration, I was somewhat shocked. "You mean Nora isn't Lucas's child?" Zane nodded. "Big brother Lucas is very righteous, Nora is his former comrade's child. In a rescue, his comrade sacrificed, and later the child's mom also passed. Big brother Lucas felt the child was pitiful, so he kept her by his side." I warily sized up Zane. "Why are you telling me this?" Zane smiled faintly. "I have no malice, I don't know the situation between you and Big brother Lucas. You're adults with your own ways. I just feel sorry for Nora, it's clear the child likes you a lot, and I don't want her hurt." I breathed a sigh of relief, looking at him seriously. "Don't worry, I promise you, I won't let Nora suffer any harm." As early as hearing her mom passed, I felt immense pity. Now knowing her real situation, besides pitying her more, I have no other thoughts. That night, I confessed to Lucas. I already know Nora's background. Lucas, with a cigarette in his mouth, squinted at me. "What do you think?" I asked him, "Does Nora know her own background?" Lucas nodded. "Her dad was a firefighter, she knows her dad is a great hero, and her mom loved her dad very much." I abruptly said, "Lucas, let's go to Nora's home and see her grandparents, live with them for a while." Lucas looked at me somewhat surprised, seeming not to expect such a crazy idea from me. Zane told me that when Lucas wanted to adopt Nora, her grandparents didn't agree. Lucas promised them to go back 3 months a year and guaranteed to treat Nora as his own daughter. Only then did the two elders agree. They were old and couldn't care for Nora at all. Now their child is gone, Nora is their only hope. As long as it's good for Nora, they're willing to anything. Thinking of those two pitiful elders, thinking of pitiful Nora, my heart felt like pricked by needles. Clearly my own life wasn't smooth, yet I couldn't bear seeing others suffer even a bit. Compared to them, my past wasn't too bad, was it? After a moment, Lucas suddenly said, "Okay, it's time to go back and see." Nora's grandparents lived in a small town in Jiangnan. Here, away from the city's hustle, but with a rustic flavor. On the first day, I fell in love with it. Learning of our arrival, Nora's grandparents were very happy. Especially Nora's grandma, looking at me with eyes full of joy. "I've always worried little Luo would be dragged down by our family, now seeing you, my heart is relieved." On the road to the underworld, I can face my unfilial son. As the words fell, everyone couldn't help but redden their eyes. Fortunately, Nora was a little smart one, climbing onto the sofa, hugging Grandma, and calling her repeatedly, instantly restoring a festive atmosphere. In the evening town, with gentle breezes. At the grandparents' suggestion, Lucas decided to take me for a stroll. The elders hadn't seen Nora for too long, so they kept the child. Lucas and I went out alone. The ancient town's night was brilliantly lit. During summer vacation, many tourists came. I was attracted by the roadside lanterns, stopped to look for a while, and when I turned back, couldn't find Lucas. The crowded crowd made me subconsciously fearful. In panic, looking left and right, I forgot to use my phone to contact. Just as I was anxiously fretting, a strong force from behind pulled me back. "Where are you scurrying to?" Lucas's voice instantly calmed me. I slowly breathed a sigh of relief, complaining softly, "Couldn't find you, I was anxious." Lucas took my hand, gripping it in his palm. "Such a grown person, yet like Nora, need to prevent you from getting lost. Let's go, I'll hold you." My cheeks instantly flushed red, subconsciously wanting to withdraw my hand. But he gripped tightly, and the surrounding crowd grew larger. I could only go with the flow, letting it be. The future would be like this too, everything following the heart. I increasingly liked the town's tranquil life. After living 2 months, no intention to leave. That day, taking Nora out for a walk, I saw 2 familiar people. Ethan holding Ian, standing right in front of me. Ian noticed Nora, his eyes darkening. I subconsciously protected Nora behind me. Nora, unaware, cautiously asked, "Mom, what's wrong?" Hearing her call me Mom, Ian broke down. He shook off Ethan's hand, rushed at me, pointing at Nora and interrogating, "Who is this? Why call you Mom?" "She calls you Mom, then what am I?" I laughed in anger. "She calls me Mom, naturally she's my child. As for you? You said it yourself, don't want me as your mom, now coming eagerly to question who?" After hearing my words, Ian's eyes completely reddened. He couldn't hold back, wildly accusing me, "You're my mom, how can you be someone else's mom?" "No, you gave birth to me, so you must be my mom." He arrogantly thought that with the blood tie, I couldn't abandon him. But he was wrong. 10 months pregnancy, cervix dilated 10 fingers, risking life in delivery. I never owed him a bit, only he owes me. Once, I guarded him sleeplessly, raising him bit by bit. But he not only betrayed me but hurt me with the most vicious words. He is my child, knowing best how to stab my heart. People get tired, hearts get cold, now I completely don't want him. I said calmly, "From the moment you abandoned me and chose others, I'm no longer your mom." Ian cried wildly. Ethan stood behind him, silent wave after wave. After a long time, Ethan spoke. "Lynn, I still love you, can you give me another chance? Late affection is cheaper than grass. Moreover, the scum in front of me isn't affectionate at all." I sneered at him, "Didn't you love Chloe to death, how come you don't love her so fast? It seems money's charm is greater." Ethan instantly stiffened, his face extremely ugly. He thought that since I hadn't lived in the city these months, I knew nothing? My mother called a few days ago to tell me how deserved the Ethan family was. Since my family withdrew funds from the Ethan family, the already financially troubled Ethan family worsened. Chloe not only didn't help but took the opportunity to get many benefits for her family from the Ethan family. Piece by piece, it completely crushed the Ethan family. My parents always resented Ethan's betrayal of me. Upon learning the news, they publicized the Ethan family's capital chain break. In a short time, the originally glorious Ethan family completely fell. Last week, the Ethan family went bankrupt. Without the Ethan family's bankruptcy, would Ethan think of me? Probably not, a selfish scum like him would only think my leaving him is a loss. Seeing Ethan unwilling to give up and wanting to approach, I warned him, "Now the Ethan family is defeated, if you don't want to fare worse, disappear from my sight quickly." Ethan still struggled, "Lynn, you misunderstood me, I really love you." Let's reconcile, give Ian a complete home. I was so angry I wanted to vomit blood, the two blocked me from leaving. Until Lucas appeared. Nora excitedly pounced into his arms. Dad, bad people stealing Mom. Lucas softly comforted her. Don't fear, no one can steal Nora's mom. He put one arm around my waist, gazing threateningly at Ethan. Now she's my person, think clearly before touching mine. Lucas's strong aura made Ethan retreat. Seeing he didn't dare approach, Lucas sneered mockingly. He held me and left. Behind came Ian's heart-wrenching cry, Mom, I was wrong, please come back. My heart suddenly tightened. After all, he's flesh fallen from my body, how could it not hurt? But from the moment he abandoned me, I'm no longer Ian's mom. I'm Lynn, from now on, I'll only be myself.